created the waters above and below the firmament. Ruling over us from the heavens is to remain a secret forever.
Where these are real physical objects on the surface, and on top of them they got lines, auto routes, or whatever connected to them for people to get to them, obviously. Now I think like you, I know the Pentagon's not going to tell us any of the real truth, right? Or probably not most of it. But I know one thing. They did say that each and every capture is very different and hard to characterize, and to just have one excuse for all UFOs because there are many different captures. Well, there might be some truth to that. Look at all the different captures that I've got myself. Without any filter here, recent moon I just filmed. Take a look at all the lines, and not just that, the objects, structures, or anomalies side by side. I'll get an arrow to point to it. Let's zoom in to see the Apennine Mountains, which is the highest point on the surface of the moon. They say just 10 or 12,000 feet under the height of Mount Everest here on Earth. Let's try to see some elevation. At the same time, we can see the Rima Hyginus crater, all the greenery, browns, and all the holes in the surface, which supposedly was an implosion. Interior volcanic chamber that would have imploded and left all those lines. Let's analyze it as we zoom into the Apennine Mountains. Notice how much like Earth it looks like, the surface. It's incredible. Everybody can see the difference between refraction and the real true colors of the surface. If it's not sparkling and electrical and digital, well, it just could be that the moon is not gray, which NASA already confirmed that. They don't believe everything they say, but they must have some truth. They can't lie with what we can see with our telescopes. All amateur telescope operators would be able to debunk them. Look inside Mare Serenitatis, guys and gals. Look at that descending area. It looks literally cut out, hard edge with all the pipe or lines going by, and you can see a lot of depth there, as once again we're going over the Apennine Mountains and Cassini over on the top right there. India Beresheet crashed right underneath the area that I just showed you, right about there. I always talk about a UFO highway on the surface. And what I mean by the highway is that in a certain area along Copernicus and right straight through the moon, there's always a chance of me once in a while, often enough actually, because I've showed many signs of these objects. They're white objects, but you can see them. I can't necessarily declare they're in formation, but in a way they are. And yeah, I don't know if you know it, pilots usually don't follow each other one behind the other. I'm no expert, but I know that they're side by side, sort of like they are in a formation. Not sort of like, that's how they would be if they were in formation, the little bit that I know. What about moving explosions? If the UFOs that I'm seeing on the surface coming out of the dark are lighting up, that means they ride around with the lights off. What the heck? And look at other lights beside it. It clearly looks like a projectile. And look, I'm showing you the surface illuminating. There's a proof right there. This is with the telescope, and no, there's no color filter either. It's the color of the telescope with the exposure taken down. If you want to say it's refraction, it's besides the point. that's the color that appears. You still see that clearly it's a fire. Even if it was in black and white, you could clearly see it was a fire anyways. So the idea, the UFO and projectiles. And here's another instance of this. This is not the same event. So I am capturing more than, oh boy, it's hot here. Whew. I'm capturing more than one event, folks. This is the intriguing part. And in slow motion, you could see that light is firing on the surface or in the air. You can literally see it. The projectiles very close and literally coming from that object, because that's a moving UFO that we're looking at. So, is there a war on the moon? Was there a war on the moon? People ask me, when was this? 219, 220? This is all the captures that I keep getting more captures. I get objects last year with Beresheet hitting the moon. I get objects that are in space. We're going to go see large objects beside the sun that I caught. We'll do some comparisons. Don't forget, when the solar system was active, I started getting all of these objects. Not this, but you'll see later. And here's another one on the moon, by the way. I'm sorry, there is a dark object with the propellant coming out. You can see the flame out at the back of this object. So whether this object is shooting or propelling itself over the surface, it's literally what we are looking at. So you know how the Pentagon says it's hard to characterize all UFO sightings just as one explanation? Well, look at the smoke lifting off the surface of this one. I'm proving that they're on the surface too. And that's the most incredible part. Why this isn't in the news? Well, it's obvious. The same reason why Bob Lazar never made it to the news. If some truth comes out, they're going to blow it off, obviously. And some people say, oh, it's not exciting. Disclosure, they're not saying much. I'm sorry. They said more than they've ever said in disclosure. It's just that we wish they would tell us exactly what's going on. We don't know. Look how far away the stars are from this UFO that's going to touch, for Pete's sakes, the surface of the roof of my garage. Look how far the stars are behind it. This is literally 20 feet over the house, and there's the roof of the garage where you saw that object going by. So again, I was talking about the sun. When the sun is pretty active, for those of you just arriving, check it out. This is an object as large as Earth. It's catching on fire as it is whizzing towards the sun, and you could even see how fast it's bloody going, because each frame it gets twice or 3 times as big, and you can see it there changing as it enters, obviously, the corona. Here it is leaving the other side of the sun. Absolutely incredible. So let me tell you, most objects that go by the sun all burn up. We're talking about pieces of ice, rocks, and even the rocks, they'll flame up and just become literally dust. If they're really close to the sun, they have to be pretty big to stay uniform. And look at this one with wings that I've showed you before. So these are all objects that come into the solar system. Look at the tail, must be a comet. When the sun is active, like this one here, that you see clouds going in front of a large planetoid-sized object. What trajectory is it on? Somebody asked me in the community. It would be amazing to know. I tell you what, it's not supposed to be there, and it definitely is not refraction, because that is through a sun lens, by the way. Imagine me seeing color through a sun lens, okay? That's because it was very, very bright, and I could see it going by the moon. Yeah, Plato Crater. There's a dark line at the end of Plato Crater. Looks like a pipe or tunnel. I'm not saying it is, but it looks like it. This could be UFO or debris, but look at the smoke coming out of that dark line. And this object is probably going to go into the smoke. So they're definitely hiding, and the structures on the surface and entrance. For the support, everyone. I appreciate it. Let's see what the trolls. See if we make them cry. Trolls, the man they suffering inside, they're so sad. Yeah. Trolls, the man they suffering inside, they're so sad. Aliens are mining on the moon, yes they are up there. Doesn't matter, cause disclosure's coming soon. Disclosure's coming